Despite what it might look like, I'm not a printer. I mean, sure, I've got ink on the wall, and this little press, and this big press, this giant cutter, and more paper than I know what to do with. But all that's here to serve a higher purpose. Story time. This is a Spot UV job. It was made by Taylor Box Company, and you could tell it's Spot UV because there's raised shiny parts over printed pieces. This is another Spot UV project, this time by Scodix. These presses are amazing and they cost millions of dollars. They're wild. The thing these projects both have in common is that they're coated papers. There's some sort of coating over the paper itself that helps things sit on top of the paper and makes things like 4-color printing pop really well. I tend to work in uncoated papers. Things like letterpress and screen printing work really well with it. Plus, I find uncoated papers feel just a little bit more sophisticated. And uncoated papers can range from something with a decent amount of texture to something with not much at all. So this client comes to me for a quote, and they've got everything spec'd out. They know exactly what the design is. They know how many they need. It was something like 30 or 50,000 business cards, and they knew exactly what they wanted it on. Some designer had picked the papers, had picked the inks. They knew exactly what they wanted. The trouble is that they specified we use Spot UV on an uncoated paper. But the ultraviolet varnish for Spot UV needs coating to sit on top of. Now, I don't do Spot UV in-house. In fact, there are very few people in the state that do, but I called every single one of them, and all of them said they wouldn't do it. Well, I take that back. One said they'd do it, but they would require 3 passes through the press of each sheet so that they could build up layer after layer of that varnish and hope that it would work. Even then, they couldn't guarantee results. So I gave them a quote with 3 options. The first was exactly what they asked for. I gave them the numbers and told them, well, frankly, there's not much of a chance it's going to work. Then I gave them the alternative. If we clear foil stamp their business cards, we could get that contrast of shiny and matte in a way that I knew that would work. It was awesome, but it was going to cost a little bit more. Then I gave them a third option. It was the option we probably would have arrived at had they called me 2 or 3 months earlier, before they had finished all the designs and spec'd everything out. They were having enough cards made that instead of flooding a white sheet with their brand color, we actually could have gone to a paper mill and had them make a sheet in the color of their brand. Now the mill had a minimum, but it would have had enough paper for future projects too, which was really exciting. There was a lot we could have done, and it came with a fairly substantial investment. I'd have you guess which one they picked, but the truth is they didn't pick any of them. Instead, they found a printer who would give them lip service, who would overpromise and underdeliver, because the truth is it wasn't really possible to do what they wanted. I found that most printers aim to minimize as many variables as possible, to make things as straightforward and simple as possible so they could squeeze whatever little margins left out of a project. The problem is you don't make an impact with average. If you really want to make an impact with your stationery, and let's face it, if you're spending the money on paper, you want to make some sort of impact. If you really want to make an impact with your stationery, you have to dream, and that's the part that I love doing. See, a printer's going to guide you to the things that they know that they can do, the things that they can do in-house. I like to lead my clients to something that stops people in their tracks. Whether it's at their mailbox or at a networking event, whenever they're handed a piece of stationery that I've helped my clients create, I wanted to stop them dead in their tracks. I wanted to make a moment feel special. And you can't do that if you're playing in the middle. In order to do that, you've got to explore the edges a little bit. You've got to take some risks. And sometimes you've got to walk down a path where you're not even sure you're going to see the end. And it may not be the right path after all, and you backtrack a little bit and go somewhere else. But if you really want to make an impact, if you really want to stand out, you've got to take risks. So sure, I print, but I'm not a printer. I'm a dreamer. And if you really want to make something magic with me, give me a call before you've even started designing. Give me a seat at the table early and let me help you explore the edges. In fact, why don't you pick up the phone and call me now? It's 253-237-4636. Let's talk about the impact you want to make on the world, and let's explore the edges together.